A solitary traveler ascends a winding path, seeking solace atop a mist-covered mountain. The air is thick with questions, the kind that echo in the chambers of a restless heart. At the summit, a serene figure awaits, embodying the wisdom of ages. The traveler speaks of a love that once illuminated his world, now dimmed to a mere flicker. He describes laughter that has faded, touches that no longer linger, and conversations that have become mere exchanges of words. The wise figure listens intently, then gestures toward a nearby stream. "Observe the water," he says. "It flows effortlessly, never clinging, never resisting. Love, too, must flow freely. When it is forced, it loses its essence. Love doesn't always end with a grand farewell," the sage continues. "Often it retreats silently. The first sign is subtle, a growing distance. Shared moments become rare, and the warmth once felt begins to cool. It's not about blame or fault. It's about recognizing the natural ebb and flow of emotions. Clinging to what was can blind us to what is." The sage presents a mirror to the traveler. "Look into this," he says. "Do you see the same person who once basked in love's glow, or has the reflection changed?" The traveler notices a transformation, not just in himself, but in the way he perceives the world. When love shifts, our self-image often follows. The sage explains, "We must learn to see ourselves anew, independent of another's gaze. Everything in life is transient," the sage muses. "Clinging to permanence in a world of change leads to suffering. Embrace the impermanence and you'll find peace." He recounts a tale of a leaf that resists falling in autumn, fearing the unknown. Yet, once it lets go, it discovers the freedom of the wind and the promise of renewal. Letting go is not a sign of weakness, the sage asserts. It takes immense strength to release what no longer serves us. In doing so, we make space for growth and new beginnings. Medium, the traveler reflects on his journey, realizing that holding on has kept him anchored in the past. With newfound clarity, he chooses to release his grip, trusting in the path ahead. As the traveler descends the mountain, he carries with him not the weight of lost love, but the lightness of acceptance. He understands that love's departure doesn't diminish its value, it simply marks a new chapter. As the traveler stood there, absorbing the sage's words, a quiet realization began to bloom within him. Love was never meant to be a possession, something to be captured or held tight, as if it were a fragile bird in a cage. Instead, love was a living, breathing force, fluid, evolving, and at times fleeting. It was the very nature of love to change, to shift shapes, and sometimes to depart, not with a crash, but with the softest of whispers, almost unnoticed until it had already gone. This gentle departure was not a failure or a betrayal, but a natural rhythm, as essential and inevitable as the setting sun or the falling leaves. The traveler pondered deeply on the first sign the sage had described, the gradual retreat, the slow withdrawal of presence that many mistake for mere distance, but which is, in truth, a profound shift in the energy between two souls. This retreat was silent, almost invisible to the eye, yet unmistakably felt in the heart. It was like the fading echo of a once vibrant melody, still there, but faint, growing softer until it finally disappeared. In relationships, this silence often goes unnoticed until it has woven an invisible barrier. The warmth of shared laughter cools into polite smiles. The spontaneous conversations become routine exchanges. The spark that once ignited connection begins to flicker uncertainly. These subtle changes are not signs of hatred or anger, but rather the soul's quiet way of signaling a transformation underway. And yet, so often, the human heart resists this change. There is a tendency to cling desperately to what was, to hold onto memories and hopes as if they were anchors that could stop the tide from rising. But the sage's wisdom reminded the traveler that to cling was to cause suffering, not only to oneself but also to the other. For love cannot thrive when bound by chains of fear or expectation. The second sign the sage revealed was equally profound, the altered reflection in the mirror of the self. When love begins to fade, it doesn't just change the person who withdraws, it reshapes how we see ourselves. The traveler realized that part of the pain of lost love came from this mirror becoming unfamiliar. We are reflections of our relationships in many ways, and when the light of love dims, shadows fall on our own image, casting doubt and uncertainty. This transformation is subtle but significant. It's not merely a matter of appearance, but a shift in how we feel within our own skin. Confidence may wane, self-doubt may creep in, and a sense of estrangement from one's own identity can grow. It is as if the person you once knew has been replaced by a stranger who carries the weight of loss and unspoken sorrow. Yet, within this altered reflection lies an opportunity. The sage's words hinted at a powerful truth. When one chapter closes, another begins. The changing reflection is not a sign of decay, but an invitation to rediscover the self, to rebuild, to grow, and to evolve beyond the limitations of the past. This journey inward is not easy. It requires courage. The courage to face loneliness without fear, to embrace vulnerability without shame, and to accept change without resistance. The traveler felt the weight of this challenge, but also sensed its transformative potential. The sage's teaching on impermanence offered a balm to this struggle. All things pass, the sage said softly. The only certainty in life is change itself. The traveler remembered moments when he had witnessed nature's cycles, the blooming of flowers, the fading of daylight, the turning of seasons, and how each ending carried the promise of renewal. Love, like life, follows this cycle. To resist the natural flow is to invite pain, to accept it is to find peace. The analogy of the leaf that refuses to fall resonated deeply. The leaf, clutching desperately to its branch, loses the chance to dance freely in the wind, to nourish the earth below, and to make way for new growth. In this metaphor, the traveler saw himself holding tightly to a love that no longer served him, fearful of the unknown yet yearning for freedom. The sage's words became a gentle urging to surrender, not in defeat but in trust. Letting go, the traveler realized, was an act of wisdom and strength. It was not about erasing memories or denying feelings, but about honoring the truth of the present moment. To release what no longer nourished his spirit was to create space for healing, for self-discovery, and for new possibilities to emerge. The traveler understood now that love's departure was not the end of his story, but a vital chapter in his ongoing journey. It was the closing of one door and the opening of another, inviting him to walk forward with an open heart and a clear mind. The sage's final lesson was one of acceptance, to meet loss not with anger or bitterness, but with gratitude. Gratitude for the time shared, the lessons learned, and the growth experienced. This attitude transformed loss from a source of pain into a wellspring of wisdom. With this understanding, the traveler felt a lightness return to his step. The burden of clinging lifted, replaced by a quiet strength and a sense of peace. He descended the mountain not to seek what was lost, but to embrace what lay ahead. In the broader tapestry of life, love might change shape, fade, or depart, but it never truly vanishes. It leaves behind echoes that shape who we are and who we become. The traveler now carried these echoes with reverence, ready to create anew. The story of the traveler and the sage reflects a universal truth. Love, in its many forms, teaches us about connection, vulnerability, and the courage to grow. When love fades, it is not a failure, but an opportunity, a chance to deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world. It invites us to explore the paradox of attachment and freedom, to find balance between holding on and letting go. It challenges us to face the silent departures with grace, to listen to the subtle signs our hearts whisper, and to trust the flow of life beyond our control. In every relationship, there comes a time when the familiar begins to feel foreign, when distance grows not out of resentment but out of transformation. Recognizing this is the first step toward healing. It allows us to respond with compassion rather than resistance, to honor what was while embracing what is. The altered reflection in the mirror is both a challenge and a gift. It calls us to rebuild our sense of self on foundations stronger than dependence on another's love. This process, though painful, is the forge in which resilience and self-awareness are born. The wisdom of impermanence teaches that change is not to be feared but embraced. In the rhythms of nature, in the cycles of seasons, and in the flow of time, we find reassurance that endings are beginnings in disguise. The courage to release is the courage to live authentically, to create space for joy and connection anew. To let go with gratitude is perhaps the highest form of love, love that honors freedom, growth, and the mystery of life. It acknowledges that true love is not possession but participation in a shared journey, sometimes together, sometimes apart. As the traveler continues his path, the story invites us all to reflect. Have we noticed the silent signs in our own lives? Have we felt the gentle retreat of love's presence or the strange unfamiliarity in the mirror? If so, it may be time to embrace the wisdom of letting go, not as an end, but as a transformation, to open the door with gratitude, to step forward with hope, and to trust that life's unfolding holds new gifts beyond what we can imagine. Love, after all, is a journey without a fixed destination. It flows through us, shapes us, and carries us toward deeper understanding. When one chapter closes, another begins, and in the space between, we find the true essence of living.